All right, let's talk about something that is basically real-life magic. It's called compound interest, but forget the boring financial stuff. Seriously, think of it as a secret power, one that you can actually use to grow your own money. Let's dive in and see how it all works. No, really, just stop and think about that for a second. What if you could put your money to work, and it just started making more money for you without you having to lift a finger, while you're at school, hanging out with friends, or literally fast asleep? Well, guess what? It's not a fantasy, it's exactly what we're talking about today. So to make this super simple and honestly a lot more fun, we're going to ditch the complicated financial jargon. Instead, we're going to call this idea the magic jar. It's just a really easy way to picture this incredible power at work.
Okay, so how does this magic actually work? We're going to break it all down with a simple and pretty sweet analogy. Let's call it the jelly bean trick.
Before we get to the jelly beans, here's the big idea in a nutshell. The secret sauce is just getting growth on top of your previous growth. So your money earns a little bit, and then that little bit starts earning its own money. It's a cycle, and that's where the magic really happens.
All right, picture this. We take 10 jelly beans and we put them inside our magic jar. Now, this jar has one simple rule. Every single year, it's going to magically add 10% more jelly beans based on whatever's already inside. Simple enough, right?
At first glance, this is, well, it's kind of boring, isn't it? After the first year, the jar adds one single bean. The next year, another one. After 4 whole years, you've only gotten 4 extra jelly beans. It feels incredibly slow, almost like nothing's happening. But what happens if you just walk away? If you just let that jar do its thing? Well, if you came back after 20 years without adding a single bean yourself, you look inside and find over 67 jelly beans. You started with just 10. The jar did all the rest. And that's when you start to see the magic really kick in.
That slow start that suddenly just takes off like a rocket, that's called exponential growth. And to really, truly get how powerful this is, let's look at a classic story that has been blowing people's minds for centuries, the fable of the rice and the chessboard. So the story goes, a king was so impressed by the inventor of chess, he offered him anything he wanted. The inventor's request sounded super humble. He said, just give me 1 grain of rice on the first square of a chessboard, 2 on the second, 4 on the third, and just keep doubling it for all 64 squares. The king practically laughed. He thought, what a tiny, silly price to pay. So they start counting. After 10 squares, the total is 512 grains of rice. Okay, that's like a handful of rice, no big deal. The king is probably feeling pretty good about himself right now. But then, let's jump ahead to square 20. Whoa, all of a sudden we're talking about over 1 million grains of rice. Now that's a big bag of rice. Things are getting interesting. I bet the king isn't laughing anymore. Okay, but hold on, because this next jump is where it gets absolutely insane. Just 10 more squares, up to square 30, and you're over 1 billion grains of rice. This is the point where your brain can't even keep up with the speed of the growth. It went from a handful to more than an entire harvest in just a few moves. And here's the kicker. By the time they got to that last square, the 64th square, the amount of rice they needed was more than all the rice on the entire planet. The king was totally bankrupt. Now, this story is amazing because it shows you the explosive power of compounding. And that same mind-bending force that bankrupted a king, that's the exact same force that can build your fortune. Okay, jelly beans and rice on a chessboard, they're great stories. But let's bring this into the real world. Let's stop talking about fables and start talking about actual money. You know, the legendary investor Charlie Munger said it best. The secret ingredient here isn't being some kind of genius who can predict the future. It's not about buying or selling at the perfect time. The real secret is patience. It's all in the waiting. It's just letting your magic jar do its thing for a long, long time. Check this out. Let's say you invest a single $100 bill and it grows by 10% a year. After 10 years, it's about $259. Cool, but not life-changing. After 30 years, it's over $1,700. But watch what happens next. In those last 20 years, it explodes from about $11,000 to over $200,000, all from that one single $100 bill you started with. That is the power of waiting. Now we get to the most important part of this whole thing. Let's forget about kings and investors for a second and make this all about you. How can you put this incredible magic to work for yourself, starting like right now? We're going to start with a number that sounds almost laughably small, insignificant even, $5. That's it, the price of a fancy coffee. That's all you need to get this whole thing started.
So here is the big challenge, the big what if. Imagine a 10-year-old decides, you know what, I'm going to save just $5 every single week. And they put it somewhere where it can grow by about 10% a year. What do you think happens? The results are, well, they're honestly mind-blowing. By the time they're 30, that simple $5 habit has turned into about $25,000. By age 50, you're looking at over $600,000. And by the time they're ready to retire, at age 65, that tiny, tiny habit of saving $5 a week has become over $2 million. It just proves it. Small, consistent actions, plus a lot of time, equals an unbelievable result. And this all comes back to the number one most important rule of the magic jar. You can't interrupt the process. You can't eat the jelly beans too early. The longer you leave it alone, untouched, the more powerful that magic becomes. Taking your money out early is like stopping the chessboard story halfway through. You miss the entire explosion at the end. So you might be thinking, okay, I'm in, how do I start? Well, it is so easy. You can ask a parent to help you open a special savings account just for this. Or you can use one of those cool apps that automatically rounds up your purchases and saves the change for you. Or you can go really old school and just start a physical jar at home to get in the habit of putting that $5 away every week. Look, at the end of the day, learning about this stuff is one thing, but actually doing it is everything. This incredible power, this real-life magic is out there for anyone to use, but it only works if you start. So the only real question left is, when are you going to put that first $5 in your own magic jar?